All right, so we're going to use the graph of y equals 2 to the x to graph each of the following. So let's use our transformations. So tell me, what is that x minus 3? What do I expect to see happen to my graph?
Move to the left 3.
It's going to go right,
To the right.
3. Good. Now, because my base is a 2 here, we're going to use the same table that we just used, okay? If it was 3 raised to the x minus 3, then we would need a new parent table for 3 to the x. So using that other table, what are we going to do? What does this one do to my x's? Anything?
It's going to move that.
Yeah, we're going to add 3 to it. Am I going to do anything to my y's?
No.
No. So let's add 3 to all of our x's. Now, I don't have, well, y'all don't have it on this page either. You can flip over if you want, or I'm just going to write it right here, the table that we did have. So 2 to the x had this as a parent table.
Is it always going to be 2?
Not always. They could change it. It could be 3 to the x, and if so, then we would have to make a new parent table, okay? All right, so, and remember we had a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. All right, so you told me we're going to take all of our x's and we're going to add 3 to them. Add 3.
0.
So I have it written up there on my screen if you don't want it to flip back and forth. And then you said the y's weren't changing, so the y's are going to stay the same. And then what about the horizontal asymptote? Will it change?
No,
Why not?
because you're affecting the y.
Yeah, it's not affecting the y, and my horizontal asymptote is a y equals. So only things that affect the y will affect the horizontal asymptote. And then whatever you do to your y's, you also do to the horizontal asymptote then. All right, so we got our new point. Horizontal asymptote is going to stay the same. And then plot your new points. And then you can compare it back to your parent function. And does it appear to have moved to the right 3?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, just like you told me it would. All right, for B, what do we expect to see happen?
It moved to the right once.
Next to it at B there.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that negative x is a reflection. It's a reflection across what?
The x-axis. Y-axis.
The y-axis, because it's with the x, so the x is going to change signs, which means it's going to have to cross over the y-axis for it to change. So is that going to affect my x or my y values? Is it with the x or not with the x? The negative symbol.
X.
It's with the x, so it's going to affect the x. How?
By making every single thing negative.
Yeah, it's going to change all the signs. Technically, we would divide x by a negative 1, because remember x is the opposite, and it says negative 1 times x. But it does mean it's just going to change all the signs. Now remember, go back to your parent table, not the table I just did in pink on the other side. All right, so divide all your x's by negative 1. Does it affect my y's? No, so they're going to stay the same. And what about my horizontal asymptote? Will it change? No, because it's also a y. And then check it. Did it do what you thought it would? Did it reflect across the y-axis? Yes, good. All right, what about C? What is that plus 1 going to do to our graph? Yeah, it's going to go up 1. So is that going to affect my x or my y's? How? What are we going to do to our y values? We're going to add 1 to them. So our x's are going to stay the same. Remember, go back to your parent one, not the one we just did. And we're going to add 1 to all of our y values. And what about that horizontal asymptote? Yeah, it's also going to add 1 to it. It was 0, so now it's up at 1. And then draw your graph. So we haven't really been doing it, but remind me on this one here, what's the domain? Yeah, negative infinity to positive infinity, and what's your range? Yeah, 1 not included to positive infinity. Good. And D. Yes, the negative there is going to make it reflect across the x-axis. So does that affect my x or my y's? My y's. So what am I going to do to my y's? Yeah, they're going to change signs. Technically, it says negative 1 times 2 to the x, right? So technically, we're multiplying by negative 1. So my x's aren't going to change. And multiply your y's by negative 1. And what about your horizontal asymptote? Well, you're going to multiply it by negative 1, but what is 0 times negative 1? 0. And then graph those. And then tell me about its domain. Good. What about the range?
Negative 80 to 0.
Very good. Zero's not included.